David, this is Optimus Prime, calling to see if you have good car insurance.
I have, like, the bare minimum.
The bare minimum is not good enough for the Decepticons. Stick with me and I'll give you a good price.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
That's all Spark stands. Are you in good hands?
Hey, what's up and welcome back to Interpreting the Stars. For today, I'll be bringing it back to my Transformers rewatch of films with the last film Michael Bay directed. It's Transformers: The Last Knight. Transformers: The Last Knight, Optimus Prime is looking for the creators, but instead, he finds a dead world on Cybertron. Meanwhile, everybody on Earth seems to be looking for a mystical staff that is said to have something to do with both King Arthur as well as the key to save our planet now. Only time will tell. So my journey on watching all of these films had to get here, right? And it was a moment that I was kind of dreading because The Last Knight, from my recollection, was always my least favorite overall, and one that I actually considered to be the least memorable, save for maybe the primary gimmick of the film, which had something to do with King Arthur. Now, the idea here is the same as we've seen in the past, that basically Transformers have been around forever. They've been around since the dawn of time, influencing the actions of our past. So, they've been the reason, for instance, the dinosaurs went extinct. They were the reason that we went to the moon in the first place, etc. And in this film, they were like, yeah, they were even around in the Dark Ages, explaining how Merlin was so magical and King Arthur was really this real person. And no, look, the greatest thing the series had going for it was the ability to connect its own science with our real, tangible world, a world that we're very familiar with. And by utilizing King Arthur, the film is mixing its own fantasy science with even more fantasy stuff, because King Arthur wasn't real. Merlin, Excalibur, Lancelot, none of it. So right from the get-go, Michael Bay does a horrible job making the Transformers feel like they're relevant or even real, at least as much as he's done in the past. Because King Arthur does not fit in this universe. Past that, this movie is also probably the most saturated in its action sequences that I've ever seen from the series thus far, and I had a heck of a time following the story. I mean, yeah, they had to get to a staff, otherwise known as a MacGuffin, but I'm still lost as to what that even does, and if you think about it deeper, you start pondering how they haven't even talked about it this whole time if it has been so important all these years. So, we have a confusing plot, which means all it has going for it at this point are action scenes, and again, the action in this movie is pretty good, as usual, and the visuals are even better. That's one thing that continually impresses me with all of these films, that the visuals just seem to get better and better, despite the massive backlash the series had gotten up to this point. Seriously, the visuals in this movie are insanely good. I'll also even admit that it was really nice to see a lot more familiar faces in this movie that, began way back in the first one, including a few of the military guys. You also got John Turturro in there, and there's even a photo of Shia LaBeouf. Additional actors, you have freaking Anthony Hopkins in this movie, and that was one of their smartest moves because I love him as an actor, and to see him in a freaking Transformers film is epic. But no matter the positive, you can't ignore that this film is one of the most exhausting displays of bombastic action that I've ever seen. You just can't get around it. Half the time, I'm just like, I have no idea why they're doing this, or what's going on in this scene, or why it's doing it this way. But I just kind of go along with it, hoping that it gets better later. Honestly, when you strip the entire film from that action, the only thing it has left going for it is a very loose explanation for why King Arthur is a thing. And again, I really don't buy into the idea that King Arthur belongs in a Transformers film. Another gripe, albeit minor, is that the marketing for this film went pretty heavy on evil Optimus Prime, like that was a huge draw. And he's like evil for 5 to 10 minutes. It's barely anything, so that's at least slightly false advertising. Had he been evil a lot longer, now there's the possibility of a good Transformer film doing something different. Let's go ahead and break down my final score for a moment. From an unbiased technical perspective, This film feels like the others in terms of great stinking visuals and at least a solid attempt to do something a little bit different, even if I personally didn't like that difference. I also liked that a lot of the cast from the original trilogy came back for this film, and Anthony Hopkins is a legend. However, the story is 110% muddled by an hour of unnecessary action. Seriously, my inner thoughts was thinking they could tell the story they wanted to tell in probably an hour and 45 minutes this time around. This score is 50%. As for my bias score, that's a little bit lower because I had this blank, expressionless face on the whole time, and I was probably the most bored with this film over any of the others, because the main thing that kept coming to me while watching this film was, I think it simply overstayed its welcome, and the stories they keep coming up with constantly sound like they're ignoring actions from the past movies, like Megatron constantly returning. This was another example where he just was not needed, but he was there. My bias score is 48%, averaging everything out to a final score of 49%, 49 out of 100 possible stars, or a D letter grade. Guys, have you seen Transformers The Last Knight? If you have, let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review, which should be Bumblebee. And until then, peace out.
Dave examines movies we just watch for fun. Davey is the expert. He is the #1 critic.